Hi, everybody. It's Marlene with Eerie News, and today is May 22nd, 2022, 5/22/2022. It's Saturday night. Anyway, let's get on to the first story. A little bit irreverent, but weird nonetheless. It's out of the New York Post, titled Ads from McDonald's, Wendy's, and Burger King Exaggerate Size of Burgers. Suit, I take it as lawsuit. McDonald's, Wendy's, and Burger King have been exaggerating the size of their burgers in ads, showing much fatter patties than what consumers actually get, according to two lawsuits. The most recent complaint, filed this week against McDonald's and Wendy's in the U.S. Eastern District of New York, claims that the fast food giants use undercooked patties in their marketing to make their burgers appear bigger. The undercooked burgers appear to be 20% larger than what consumers actually get when they go to McDonald's or Wendy's, according to the complaint, which is seeking class action status. A food stylist for Wendy's has admitted that she tricks and deceives customers by using undercooked patties in burger advertisements, according to the complaint. Okay. The food stylist, I didn't even know. I didn't even know there was such a thing as a food stylist. Okay. The food stylist, who allegedly has worked with McDonald's as well, said in a 2014 Money Talks News interview that she prefers to work with undercooked patties in her photo shoots and with a simple burger purchased from a grocery store, according to Fox Business, which first reported on the lawsuits. The complaint alleges that Wendy overstates the size of 19 burgers on its menu, including its bourbon bacon cheeseburger. McDonald's materially overstates the size of the beef patties for nearly every menu item in its current advertisement, including its signature Big Mac, according to the complaint. Another federal lawsuit, filed in Florida by the same three law firms, takes aim at Burger King, citing food reviews on YouTube that point to the fatter burgers in ads versus the flattened, disappointing patties consumers get. Yeah, that's a big difference. The suit against McDonald's and Wendy's also includes links to YouTube reviews, including one named Daryl Fisher Reviews, which reviewed the Wendy's Dave's single burger compared to the advertisement and stated, "This is worth $1. This is not no $5 burger." As for McDonald's, the lawsuit takes issues with ads of a cheeseburger showing the patty extending all the way to the edge of the buns compared to photos submitted by consumers to YouTube channels showing materially smaller beef patty that comes nowhere near the edge of the bun. The suit alleges that Wendy's and McDonald's are unfairly diverting millions of dollars in sales that would have gone to competitors because of their deceptive ads. Deceptive advertising lawsuits against food companies have proliferated in recent years, including a complaint in 2020 against Burger King, which was accused of offering smaller burgers to non-carnivores who ordered the Impossible Whopper. A judge tossed the complaint. Subway was sued last year for using fake tuna in its sandwiches, which the company denied. McDonald's, Burger King, and Wendy's did not immediately respond to requests for comments. I'll tell you this much. Yes, that the advertisements, they show this beautiful, whatever it is, chicken or beef, burger with these plumped up bread. Yeah, of course. Absolutely. And I don't know if anybody's noticed, but you know how they used to have, what was it? Is it in McDonald's? Well, a version of the value meal. Let me tell you something. Some of those value meals, they're not $7, $8, $10. Woo! And now to find out you're not even getting your money's worth as far as for those of you who are old enough to remember that old Wendy's ad from the 80s, where's the beef? No, not to be found. All right, let's go on to the next story. This is out of Ancient Origins. This is titled The Disturbing True Story of the Pied Piper of Hamlin. All right. And this is quote from the story of the Pied Piper. When lo, as they reached the mountainside, a wondrous portal opened wide, as if a cavern was suddenly hollowed, and the piper advanced, and the children followed. And when all were in to the very last, the door in the mountainside shuts fast. Many are familiar with the story of the Pied Piper of Hamlin. Few realize, however, that the story is based on real events which evolved over the years into a fairy tale made to scare children. For those unfamiliar with the tale, the Pied Piper of Hamlin is set in 1284 in the town of Hamlin, Lower Saxony, Germany. This town was facing a rat infestation, and a piper dressed in a coat of many-colored bright cloth appeared. This piper promised to get rid of the rats in return for a payment to which the townspeople agreed. Although the piper got rid of the rats by leading them away with his music, the people of Hamlin reneged on their promise. The furious piper left, vowing revenge. On July 26th of that same year, the piper returned and led the children away, never to be seen again, just as he did the rats. Nevertheless, one or three children were left behind, depending on which version is being told. One of these children was lame and could not keep up. Another was deaf and could not hear the music, while the third one was blind and could not see where the other children were going. The earliest known record of this story is from the town of Hamlin itself. It is depicted in a stained glass window created for the church of Hamlin, which dates to around 1300 AD. Although it was destroyed in 1660, several written accounts have survived. The oldest comes from the Leeuwenburg manuscript, dated 1440 to 1450, which stated, "In the year of 1284, on the day of Saints Paul and John and Paul, on June 26, by a piper clothed in many kinds of colors, 130 children born in Hamlin were seduced and lost at the place of execution near the Koppen." A 1384 entry in Hamlin Town shows also grimly states, "It is 100 years since our children left." The supposed street where the children were last seen is today called, I'm going to kill this, but I'm sorry, I'm not good in German, Bungelowstrasse, no, I'm sorry, Bungelowsenstrasse, street without drums, as no one is allowed to play music or dance there. Incidentally, it is said that the rats were absent from earlier accounts and only added to the story around the middle of the 16th century. Moreover, the stained glass window and other primary written sources do not speak of the plague of rats. If the children's disappearance was not an act of revenge, then what was its cause for the Pied Piper's actions? There have been numerous theories trying to explain what happened to the children of Hamlin. For instance, one theory suggests that the children died of some natural causes, and that the Pied Piper was actually a personification of death. By associating the rats with the Black Death, it has been suggested that the children were victims of that plague. Yet the Black Death was most severe in Europe between 1348 and 1350, more than a half century after the event in Hamlin. Another theory suggests that the children were actually sent away by their parents due to the extreme poverty in which they were living. Yet another story speculates that the children were participants of a doomed children's crusade and might have ended up in modern-day Romania. There's also the suggestion that the departure of Hamlin's children is tied to the Ausstellung, in which a number of Germans left their homes to colonize Eastern Europe. Reflecting on this hypothesis, Wibke Reimer, project coordinator at the Hamlin Museum, says, quote, "In this scenario, the Pied Piper played the role of a so-called locator or recruiter. They were responsible for organizing migrations to the east and were said to have worn colorful garments and played an instrument to attract the attention of possible settlers." Yet another suggestion is that this is an account of dance mania, also known as St. Vitus dance. This affliction gripped mainland Europe between the 14th and 17th century and has been described as individuals dancing hysterically through the streets for hours, days, and apparently even months, until they collapse due to exhaustion or die from heart attack or stroke. Another of the darker theories even proposes that the so-called Pied Piper was actually a pedophile who crept into the town of Hamlin to abduct children during their sleep. Perhaps the horrible nature of the children's disappearance is the reason why there are few details on what happened. Reimer ponders, did something happen that officials had been covering up? Something so traumatic that it was transmitted orally for so long in the town's collective memory over decades and even centuries? There may be more truth found in fairy tales. Historical records suggest that the story of the Pied Piper of Hamlin was a real event that took place. This could stoke real fear in parents' hearts. Worrying whispers that a number of real children have been lost to some frightening unknown force. The transmission of the story undoubtedly evolved and changed over the centuries, although to what extent is uncertain. The mystery of what really happened to those children has never been solved. The story also raises the question, if the Pied Piper of Hamlin was based on reality, how much truth is there in other fairy tales that we were told as children? I think that is so fascinating, and of course, as they say, things get retold and things get changed, but one thing seems to be consistent is children. So I don't know that part about recruiting to go to Eastern Romania. Why children? What about the parents? At that time, a child by himself, your chances of survival were very small if you didn't have adults to take care of you. And I know this is off the topic, but first thing that came to my mind when I started reading this story was the movie Stephen King's It, about the children that go missing. Maybe they did start losing children. Maybe they did have a pedophile among them and they didn't know who it was. Children just kept disappearing. Who knows? Very interesting. All right, the next story, this is out of UPI, and it's titled St. Louis Zoo Announces Birth of Critically Endangered Amur Leopard Cubs. We're delighted to announce two critically endangered Amur leopard cubs were born. Oh boy, here we go. Were born at the zoo. Okay, this they tweeted this on May 19th. Um, the St. Louis Zoo have announced the birth of two critically endangered Amur leopard cubs. The female newborns are the first cubs born at the zoo since 2010. Their births help the Amur leopard population in North America's zoos, as they're considered to be one of the most endangered cats in the world. The St. Louis Zoo uploaded Twitter photos and videos of the cubs. This marks the first litter for mother Dorothy, who also goes by Dot, aged 4, and Samson, aged 4. Samson moved to the zoo in 2021 following a breeding recommendation by the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. Both cubs appear to be healthy. Less than 100 Amur leopards remain in the forest of Primor province in far eastern Russia. Recently, the Oklahoma City Zoo and Botanical Garden announced that its adult female okapi named Cayenne will be giving birth to her first calf this fall. I had no idea that there were leopards of any type in any area that was close in Russia. That's the first for me. Well, congratulations. I hope they have a lot more. Next stories out of the Palm Beach Post. And this is titled Judge Again Delays 1990 Wellington Clown Murder Trial as Defense Struggles to Find Witnesses. Right? This is a really interesting story, and it goes back a few years. Faced with tracking down witnesses who are dead, decrepit, or don't want to testify, attorneys for accused Wellington clown killer Sheila Keene Warren on Tuesday said they aren't prepared to go to trial next month. While Palm Beach County Circuit Judge Scott Saskauer reluctantly granted the request for what would be a 4-month delay in Keene Warren's trial in the sensational 1990 murder, he said he wasn't happy. He said he cleared his schedule, delaying other trials and hearings, so the estimated 3-week trial could begin June 3rd. Think about the impact it has on me. I have a duty to the public, Saskauer said. You also have a victim's family that has waited a long time for justice. It's been 32 years since 40-year-old Marlene Warren opened the door of her home in Wellington Aero Club and was shot in the face by a person dressed as a clown, bearing flowers and balloons, one of which said, "You're the greatest." The murder remained unsolved until Keene Warren, long a suspect in the slaying, was arrested in Virginia in 2017. Sheriff deputies claimed new DNA technology unlocked evidence that finally allowed them to accuse the 58-year-old Keene Warren of killing the wife of her lover, whom she ultimately married. To reschedule the trial for a 6th time is yet another delay in a case that has already languished for too long. It's unfortunate from where I stand, Suskauer said. Defense attorneys Richard Lubin, Greg Rosenfeld, and Amy Morse, and even Assistant State Attorney Reed Scott agreed, but they said the delay was unavoidable. Scott initially balked at the request, accusing the defense team of dragging its feet, but upon reflection he said he concluded that a delay was prudent. I want this defendant to be fully prepared for trial, Scott said. I don't want to deal with appellate issues. In court papers, the defense team blamed Scott for the delay. They claimed he didn't provide them with the name and addresses of key witnesses who are scattered across the country. Further, they said, when they went to view evidence, including hair fibers, 2 balloons, a Publix bag, and car rental papers, it wasn't in evidence locker at the sheriff's office. Instead, it has been sent to forensic experts for further testing. The last-minute analysis of critical evidence flies in the face of how most cases are handled, they claim. Customarily, a criminal prosecution is straightforward. The police investigate a crime, the police arrest a suspect, and the state prosecutes the suspect, they wrote. That's not how Keene Warren's cases unfolded, they insisted. Following the arrest, the police and state continued their investigation. They wrote, "This backwards prosecution has hampered Miss Keenthorne's ability to prepare for trial. Even with such unexpected hurdles, a 3 decades old murder case is challenging," Lubin said. "This is a very difficult situation," Lubin said after the hearing. "This is a long ago event. Witnesses are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. Some of them are dead. Others are debilitated. Fearing some witnesses either can't or won't appear for trial, extra steps have to be taken so sworn depositions can be presented to a jury. Reluctant witnesses who have moved out of state or out of the country present another kind of challenge," he said. "Orders have to be obtained from judges in other states and in some cases other countries to force them to testify." From the beginning, Lubin and other members of the defense team have described the evidence against Keenthorne as weak. Marlene Warren was home with her son and 2 of his friends on the fateful day the doorbell rang. While the young people heard gunshots, they couldn't identify the clown, who was wearing an orange wig, a red nose, and white face paint. Warren's husband, Michael, was immediately a suspect, but when his stepson called him minutes after his wife's slaying, Warren said he was on Interstate 95 headed for Calder Racetrack. Clerks at a West Palm Beach costume shop said a woman with long brown hair, whom they tentatively identified as Keenthorne, bought a clown costume 2 days before the murder, deputies said at the time. Also, deputies said they quickly discovered only one Publix in the county stocked the kind of mylar balloons that were delivered to Warren's house. It was the one at Community Drive and Military Trail, across the street from where Keenthorne lived. Deputies said they also found orange fibers and brown hair in a white Chrysler LeBaron that matched the description of the clown's getaway car. The car was linked to Michael Warren's rental car company. In recent court papers, the defense team said that an expert found that dried leaves found in the car didn't match the flowers in the bouquet that was presented to Marlene Warren. Other discrepancies remain unsolved, they said. Rosenfeld told Suskauer that more time was needed to plumb other witnesses and examine evidence that could exonerate Keenthorne, who married Michael Warren in 2002. But Rosenfeld said despite the challenges, the defense would be prepared to go to trial in October. Suskauer said he too was hopeful that the trial would be held this year, but he voiced doubts. "I have other trials set for September, October, November. I am booked solid," he said. "It may be 2023. You know what? And it goes to show you. You know, maybe I'm being, let me see if I can find, and what's really funny is 12 years later, the husband marries a woman who was suspected in murdering his wife. Come on. Come on. Let me see if they have a picture of what the clown looked like. Because let me tell you, that is, they were, of course, this is 1990. They were young and they don't have, I think that, no, they don't have a picture of what she was supposed to have looked like. But apparently he's having an affair with a cuckoo bird. Okay? But what I can't get over is, how could you marry somebody who there's suspicion that she could have killed your wife, the mother of your kid? I don't know. I wonder if they're still married. I wonder what's going to happen with this. And you know who I feel sorry for? The kids of this Marlene that was killed. Because you know how long that's been? 1990? Going on over 30 years to get justice? That's a long time. Well, let's move on to another crazy girl. This is out of the New York Post. This is titled, "Ex-Hospital Worker Charged with Patient's Murder 20 Years Later." An ex-hospital worker in Missouri was charged this month with the murder of a patient who died 2 decades ago under her care. Jennifer Ann Hall, 41, is accused of using a deadly dose of a muscle relaxant and morphine to kill 75-year-old Fern Franco at Hedrick Medical Center in 2002, according to Livingston County Prosecutor Adam Warren. Hall worked as a respiratory therapist at the medical center for 5 months from 2001 to 2002. And during that short stint, the rural Missouri hospital saw the number of patients suffering sudden cardiac arrest skyrocket. The hospital experienced 18 code blue incidents of sudden cardiac arrest during Hall's employment, compared to an average of one per year, according to an investigator. Franco, who was among the code blue patients, died in her hospital bed. 8 others, including patients as young as 49 and 37, also died, while another 9 survived. Franco was being treated for pneumonia at the same time and suffered a ghastly death from suffocation while fully conscious, according to a probable cause statement written by Chillicothe officer Brian Schmidt. Hall's victim was a sick, defenseless elderly woman who was depending on Hall to care for physical ailment within a medical facility, Schmidt wrote. Hospital officials at the time were alerted to concerns that Hall may be involved in the striking uptick in sudden cardiac arrest, but did everything in the world to cover it up to avoid bad publicity, County Coroner Scott Lindley said. It's incredible. The hospital fired Hall after 5 months, not because of the suspicious rise in cardiac deaths, but because administrators learned of a prior arson conviction, according to her attorney. Hall was found guilty of starting a fire at another small hospital where she previously worked. She was acquitted of the crime at a retrial in 2005 after spending a year behind bars. Criminal investigations into the patient's deaths weren't launched until 2 years after Warren was elected prosecutor in 2010. Relatives of 5 of the patients who died sought justice themselves in 2010 through a wrongful death lawsuit against the hospital and its new parent company, St. Luke's Health System. However, the Missouri Supreme Court ruled that it was filed after the statute of limitations was up and tossed the suit in 2019. Franco's 44-year-old granddaughter, April Franco, says she hopes her grandmother's case will help bring closure to all the families who lost loved ones. Just for the other family's sake, Franco of Kansas City, Missouri said, they've been waiting 20 years for answers. It's up to my grandma's case to find answers for them. Hall pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder Thursday and has been jailed without bond. It's unclear if she will face additional murder charges in relation to the other patients who experienced cardiac arrest under her care. The other 8 patients' deaths were deemed to be from natural causes at the time. Hall's attorney, Matt O'Connor, said his client is innocent. He said she didn't have access to the drugs that killed Franco or any drugs in her role as a respiratory therapist. Well, I guess they're lucky she could have burned the hospital down. I'm just saying. Okay. You know, makes you wonder. I'm wondering if they were going to backtrack to other places she worked at before this place and see if anybody died along the same lines. And you know what's really sad? At this place she worked for, at the end of the day, were more concerned with their reputation than, worrying about these poor people that died because maybe they had hired a cuckoo bird. And I'm putting it nicely. All right, let's go on to the next story out of UPI. And this is titled 3D Modeling Uncovers Largest Cave Drawings in North America. The largest known examples of North American cave drawings have been discovered in Alabama using a new identification technique, according to research published by Cambridge University Press on Wednesday. The 19th unnamed cave in Alabama contains hundreds of pre-contact Native American mudglyph drawings that were uncovered using 3D modeling, first initiated in 2017. The technique enabled digital manipulation of the chamber space and revealing images that could not be perceived prior to modeling, according to researchers at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. Officially known as the 19th Unnamed Cave, the subterranean space in northern Alabama extends for miles beneath the surface. Hundreds of carved figures are located on the ceilings. Archaeologists estimate the carvings were made about 1,000 years ago by people living during the woodland phase of the Native American culture in the region. The glyphs could depict spirits of the underworld and have been dated to the first millennium AD. Photogrammetry is a software-based 3D modeling technique that begins by taking many photographs of a target. Each photograph overlaps its neighbors by 60 to 80%. Software then compares the images and overlaps and then calculates the camera's position used to produce the images. In the 19th Unnamed Cave, scientists created 3 interlinked models. 2 were of the engraved ceiling and a 3rd model of the undecorated cave passages. We knew the cave contained pre-contact Native American mudglyphs, and we were carrying out a 3D photogrammetry documentation project to aid with management and conservation, said Janet Semick, a University of Tennessee Knoxville professor and the study's lead author. The very large cave art images cannot be seen in person in the cave because of the constrained spaces on the site. Okay, which tells me they're probably tight. And I'm not claustrophobic, but I get claustrophobic thinking of having to crawl in there and do this work. And of course, the reason why they call them unnamed caves is that they don't want to give out the location so that nobody goes traipsing up there. So it's somewhere in Alabama. The next story is also out of UPI, and it's titled Moth Last Seen 110 Years Ago Found at Detroit Airport. Okay, a species of moth not seen since 1912 was found inside a passenger's luggage at the Detroit Metropolitan Airport. U.S. Customs and Border Protection found larvae and pupae from the moth last September inside a bag arriving from the Philippines. Customs and Border Protection said Monday the passenger claimed the seeds were for medical tea. Upon closer inspection, agriculture specialists discovered exit holes in the pods and confiscated them. While in quarantine, the pupae hatched to reveal what entomologists call very flashy moths with raised patches of black bristles, indicating the moths are members of the Pyralidae family. A Smithsonian Institution expert later identified the moth as Salma Brachiospopalus Hampson and determined the moth was last seen more than a century ago, according to Chris Grogan, a spokesperson for Customs and Border Protection. The Smithsonian entomologist also confirmed it was the first time larvae or pupae associated with this species of moth had been collected. The moths found at the airport were disposed of via steam sterilization, said Grogan. Agriculture specialists play a vital role at our nation's port of entry by preventing the introduction of harmful exotic plant, pest, and foreign animal diseases into the United States, said Port Director Robert Larkin. This discovery is a testament to their important mission of identifying foreign pests and protecting America's natural resources. And I get it, but I wonder, I guess these moths are not native to the U.S. because if they sterilize them, but out of the Philippines, that's very interesting. It goes to show that maybe a lot of times when they say things are extinct, they're not really truly extinct. Interesting. Okay, the next story is out of ABC 8 News, and this is in Virginia, and it's titled Mystery Mail, Richmond Man Receives 5 Postcards with Messages and Clues. After the first postcard arrived in March, Mason Cox received 4 more in over a month, each postmarked from a different state, but all from the same person, Molly May. It has my name, correct spelling, exact address, including the apartment number. It was truly meant for my unit, so it had to just be me. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was me, said Cox. I don't know. The message on the first postcard was written using a typewriter and included instructions for Cox to use his drone to take a picture of Molly May's boss through a window. Cox does have an interest in drones, but that was information he rarely shared and never posted. So raising the first question, how did Molly May know he used drones? As the other postcard arrived, they involved less personal information and more confusing messages, leaving Cox and his girlfriend, Tess Delano, to ask themselves the next question: why are we the ones receiving these postcards? I did call the picture on the back, like where it was developed, but I couldn't get an answer, said Delano. These GPS coordinates led the couple to a spot in Gillies Creek Park in Richmond. As they drove by the designated location, they found nothing unusual. Apparently one of the postcards was directing them to go to a certain spot. Well, the couple has their theories about who Molly May is. They are not the only ones with a spark of interest in this unusual mail delivery. Delano posted about this on social media, and the post went viral. Some people even tried to help them solve the mystery by going to the GPS coordinates, noticing descriptive details about the stamp/postcards, and sharing their speculations. The messages may seem obscure, but the couple has found this quite interesting as long as nothing gets too dangerous. They have yet to file a police report but are still cautious about the mystery mail, leaving the most important question: who is Molly May? Molly May, just come forward and tell us who you are. If this is all for fun, we are having fun, we are enjoying it, but if not, We would like to know who you are so we can put a stop to it, said Cox. Hmm. Interesting, huh? Let me tell you something. This sounds like a great plot for a mystery thriller movie. Okay. Next story, also out of UPI, titled California Condors Fly over Redwood National Park for the First Time Since 1892. Four California condors took flight over Northern California redwood habitat Tuesday. It was the first time condors have flown over Redwood National Park since 1892. The four condors were raised by the Oregon Zoo's Johnson Center for Wildlife Conservation. They were released in partnership with the Yurok Tribe's Wildlife Department and Redwood Park staff. It's thrilling to partner with the Yurok Tribe and Redwood National Park. On this release, the zoo's Kelly Walker said in a statement, condors haven't been this close to Oregon in more than 100 years. Tiana Williams Clausen, director of the Yurok Tribe Wildlife Department, said in a statement, in a very real way, restoring condor habitat and returning condor to Yurok skies is a clear restoration of the Yurok people, homeland, ecological systems, culture, and lifeway. Walker said southern Oregon is part of the species' historic range. The California condor was included in the 1973 Endangered Species Act and is still classified as critically endangered according to the Oregon Zoo. Today's California condor population is about 500 birds, most flying free. More than 70 condor chicks have hatched at the zoo's Johnson Center since 2003. The Oregon Zoo said in a statement that condor keepers and vet staff at the zoo will be on call to treat potential health issues for the adult condors. There are condor breeding programs at San Diego's Wild Animal Park, the Los Angeles Zoo, and the Peregrine Falcons World Center for Birds of Prey in Idaho. Cool. Yeah, that's the way to do it. Yeah, hatch them and make sure they can get out there. Okay. Well, that's going to be it. Let me tell you, it's a crazy world out there, but sometimes not all the news is bad or horrific. Sometimes it's just weird. And isn't that the way it should be? So, till next time, take care.